Is the University of Pennsylvania supporting hate merely by celebrating Palestinian culture? Did Netanyahu really say Israeli protesters were colluding with Iran and the PLO? And in honor of its 50th anniversary, which is happening this week, I've got 7 fast facts about the Yom Kippur War that you might not have known. So let's unpack this all. The University of Pennsylvania is one of the most prestigious universities in America, with a robust Jewish population making up about 17% of the student body. And UPenn is famous for having a thriving Jewish community. Granted, I probably can never have gotten in, but so many of my friends were there. Students of mine have attended and been leaders there. It's a great place, but something problematic or alarming is happening. An event called Palestine Writes Literature Festival, which according to its website is the only North American literature festival dedicated to celebrating and promoting cultural productions of Palestinian writers and artists, is happening this week. Seems innocuous enough, right? The website continues on to say Palestine Writes brings Palestinian cultural workers from all parts of historic Palestine and our exiled diaspora together with peers from other marginalized groups in the United States. And I think celebrating Palestinian culture is a great thing to do. So what's the problem? Where's the problem? The problem, or the problems, are who's on the guest list and what they're trying to accomplish. Most notably, Pink Floyd co-founder and rock and roll legend Roger Waters. Now, Waters is a known pro-Palestinian advocate, and his presence at the festival is therefore not surprising. But if you're not familiar with Waters' history of anti-Semitic antics, here's a brief summary. Waters was seen at one of his shows in something that looked a lot like a Nazi uniform. He floated a pig above his stage with a Jewish star in it, and has compared Israel to Nazi Germany. Other notable guests with more than just less than favorable opinions on Israel are Mark Lamont Hill, who was fired by CNN in 2018 for using the term "from the river to the sea."
From the river to the sea.
A call used by the Hamas terror group to advocate for Israel's destruction. Rutgers professor Noura Erakat, who opposes Israel's existence and has compared Zionism to Nazism. Author Randa Abdel Fattah, who called Israel a demonic, sick project. Wissam Rafidi, who earlier this year praised the 1972 Lod Airport massacre, which killed 26 people. And Susan Abu Hawa, who has called Israel a Nazi state that will someday be demolished. There is always this internal debate. On the one hand, university is meant to be a place where we hear things we really struggle with, that we strongly disagree with. And I think that's really important. On the other hand, I mean, come on. Isn't there a limit to free speech? Aren't there times when speakers are just spraying hateful rhetoric? Why can't there be a way to talk about Palestinian culture without demeaning Israel, the only Jewish state, and telling the world that it has no right to exist? Criticizing Israeli policy? No problem. Calling the Jewish state a replacement of Nazi ideology? Be serious. And the fact that it is being held right before Yom Kippur, literally the holiest day on the Jewish calendar, not a great look. To be fair, the university distanced itself from the event with a statement claiming that the event is not organized by the university. We unequivocally and emphatically condemn antisemitism as antithetical to our institutional values, said a statement from the university's president and dean of the School of Arts and Sciences. Unsurprisingly, the response has been swift. Penn Hillel, a collegiate nonprofit for Jewish students on campus, sent out an email which called for a Shabbat of togetherness and unity. And I love this response. Demonization of the Jewish people's only state is not getting in the way of Jewish identity and Jewish pride. So should this be allowed? Legally speaking, Palestinian rights is protected in their right to hold the event. And as someone who leans on the side of wanting right-wing and left-wing perspectives heard, maybe this is a good thing. But that doesn't mean people should not exercise their rights to protest, to debate, to not stand idly by. This is a developing story, and we'll have more information in next week's episode, so stay tuned. In the meantime, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Is there a way to celebrate Palestinian culture without denigrating Zionism, Israel, and the Jewish people? What do you think about the relationship between free speech and hate speech? Let us know in the comments down below. I'm going to get to the top 7 facts about the Yom Kippur War, but I've got one more topic before that. Oops, Netanyahu did it again. Or did he? Didn't he? Well, I'll tell you. As the Israeli Prime Minister prepared for his tour of baby kissing, handshakes, and meetings with world leaders from South Korea to the United States, Netanyahu criticized the opposition to his judicial reforms or overhaul, this time claiming that the protesters are joining forces with the PLO and Iran in their activities, which he framed as being against Israel rather than against his government. He went on to say whoever is organizing these protests does it with a lot of money. These are organized financially backed demonstrations. This is a bold and offensive claim to many. See what I just did? It's possible to criticize Israeli policy without demonizing Israel. Anyway, an explanation was provided stating when the Prime Minister spoke of joining forces, he was referring to the fact that at the time that the Prime Minister of Israel will be representing the State of Israel from the UN podium, Israeli citizens will be demonstrating simultaneously with PLO and BDS supporters, something that has never happened before. One hopes that the Israeli demonstrators will at least take a few minutes to demonstrate against those who deny the State of Israel's right to exist. While this distinction is important to make, it opens up a bunch of questions. When it comes to these protests, do you think they should be allowed to protest? Is it the right thing to do for the Jewish people, whether in San Jose, New York, or in Israel itself? Or should world Jewry support whatever the government of the State of Israel does? Let's all get educated and informed on the topic. That's the key. And then form our opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And finally, time for a feast of facts to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. And I just released a fire podcast series on the Yom Kippur War, part of Unpacking Israeli History. Check it out for a deep dive. In the meantime, here are your top 7 things you probably didn't know about the Yom Kippur War. This is so cool, I feel like I'm on ESPN. Number 1, the surprise attack. This attack occurred on the holiest Jewish day, Yom Kippur, when Israel was least prepared. Below key, so much of the country was in synagogue at the time, so the reserves were able to mobilize much faster because the news was breaking when they were all in the same place. Number 2, conceptia and misjudgment. Following the 67 smashing victory, Israelis wrongly believed Arab nations wouldn't dare attack again, an overconfidence termed conceptia. The Yom Kippur War was a harsh reminder that Israel can never be haughty. Coming in at number 3, we have differing perspectives on victory. Both Israel and Egypt claim victory. Egypt essentially won this war politically, but Israel won the war militarily, ultimately being so close to Damascus and Cairo. Number 4, profound psychological impact. The war was more than just a territorial gain and another display of Israel's resilience. The impact of the war shifted Israel's mentality from the overconfidence rooted in their 1967 triumph to a sobering humility after the 1973 challenges. Real self-evaluation took place. Number 5, global superpowers intervened. In '73, the Cold War was still very real, and the US and all the Soviets initially stayed out of the Yom Kippur War until President Nixon heard the USSR was supplying weapons to the Arabs, triggering the US, despite initial hesitancy, to bolster Israel with crucial supplies, countering Soviet support for the Arabs. Coming in at number 6, a legacy of peace. The Yom Kippur War set the stage for future diplomacy and eventually led to the Camp David Accords in 1978, resulting in a peace treaty between Egypt and Israel a year later. And coming in at number 7, accountability in action. The Argonaut Commission held Israeli leaders accountable for their lack of preparation and the subsequent consequences of the war. Specifically, it called for the resignation of leaders like Chief of Staff David Elazar. It also called for the restructuring of military intelligence operations and opened a new agency for intelligence. And that's going to wrap up another episode of Today Unpacked. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe so you don't miss your weekly deep dive into the Jewish and Israeli current events. And if you want to snag a t-shirt or hoodie, all you got to do is click the link below. And while you're at it, maybe check out one of our other videos.